Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. It's your favorite history teacher back at you again with another historical video. And today we are going to start Unit 5, the World War One unit, the unit about World War One, and uh, a bonus, the Russian Revolution. So sit back, relax, get your notes and your notebook out, pen, paper, and let's get into it. Unit 5. Okay. World War One, Russian Revolution. Chapter 9. This is the two title note day. So write it. I'll be right back. No, 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 no. He's back. All right. Chapter 9. All right. Today's lecture, World War One begins. Chapter 9, Lesson 1, first one. There are only 4. So, like I said, this unit is going to go by quick since there's only 4. And World War One is its own unit, well, including the Russian Revolution. All right. That was your warm up. Okay, objectives. We'll be able to identify the causes of World War One, and we're going to draw conclusions about how the conflict between Serbia and Austria-Hungary included other nations. All right. NEMA, more like Maine. So 19th century liberals believed that if European states were largely organized along national lines, these states would work together and create a peaceful Europe. However, they were very, 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 very wrong. The system of nation states that emerged in Europe in the last half of the 19th century led not to cooperation, but rather to competition. Imperialism, remember? Each European nation state regarded itself as a subject to no higher interest or authority. Each state was guided by its own self-interest and success. And furthermore, most leaders thought that war was an acceptable way to preserve that power of their national states. Those attitudes made war an ever-present possibility. So the imperialist expansion of the last half of the 1800s also played a role in the coming war. Competition for lands abroad, especially in Africa, led to conflicts and heightened the existing rivalries among European states. Nationalism, along with imperialism, had another serious result. Not all ethnic groups had become nations in Europe. The Slavic minorities in the Balkans and southern Austro-Hungarian Empire still dreamed of their own nation states. Likewise, the Irish in the British Empire and the Polish in the Russian Empire also had similar dreams of being their own state and were not successful. Industrialization offered new methods of shipbuilding and the use of iron, steel, and chemicals for new weapons. The growth of mass armies and navies after 1900 also heightened tensions in Europe. It was obvious if war did come, it was going to be highly destructive. And boy, were the historians right about that. Okay. Here we got Europe. This is like imperialism, nationalism at the start of World War One. Spoilers, starts 1914. Okay. And all these countries have their possessions. So, booyaka. All right. Serbian Musclerbian. I don't know what that means. Yeah, these are, I think, Poles in Russia. All right, military number 1. So Most Western countries had established conscription or a military draft as a regular practice before 1914. Like we said in the previous slide, armies had grown by the time 1900 came about. So why are you growing your military for, though? That's the question. With its 1.3 million men in the army, the Russian army had grown to be the largest in the world. France and German armies were not far behind with about 900,000 each. And the British, Italian, Austro-Hungarian armies numbered between 250 and 500K soldiers each. And again, like we already talked about, militarism is the aggressive preparation for war, and it was growing across Europe. As armies grew, so too did the influence of military leaders. They drew up vast and complex plans for quickly mobilizing millions of soldiers and the enormous quantities of supplies in the event of a war. But they feared that any changes would create chaos in the armed forces. So military leaders insisted that their plans could not and should not be altered. This will leave European political leaders with very little leeway, and in 1914, they will have to make decisions for the military instead of for political reasons, because, the military was so rigid and so dead set on these plans that in case war happened, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to happen, and we can't change that. Putting themselves in a box. Okay. At the same time, a system of alliances also intensified the dangers of militarism. Europe's great powers had become divided into two loose political alliances, not organizations. Germany, with the help of Otto von Bismarck, Austria-Hungary, and Italy formed the Triple Alliance in 1882. Otto von Bismarck was still in power as the prime minister or chancellor. So that's the Triple Alliance. And France, Great Britain, and Russia created the Triple Entente in 1907. So it's like, the Warriors versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. Okay, the big three. Whose big three is going to beat who? They're pretty big countries, and if you attack one, you attack them all. That's the whole thing of alliances. You attack one, you attack them all. So, women of Britain say, go fight. So here's, America, this idea of militarism. American jobs program, you give money to the military. American energy policy, you give money to the military. And American education plan, you give money to the military. The military makes up a vast majority of the United States budget year in, year out. Look it up. Here you got, what is this? I think this is America's Great White Fleet, because that's Teddy Roosevelt. And, speak softly, carry a big stick. And this is what peace looks like. We're coming to invade you with ships. Good friends fight together. The alliances of World War I. So here you have Russian allies in green, Serbia, Montenegro. And then you have the Triple Entente in blue. And then you have the Triple Alliance in red. Remember this? So in the early years of the 20th century, a series of crises tested these alliances, especially the troublesome were the crises in the Balkans between 1908 and 1913. At its height, the Ottoman Empire controlled mostly all of southeastern Europe, parts of the Middle East, and areas around North Africa. The Treaty of London that ended the First Balkan War in 1913 resulted in the Ottoman Empire losing nearly all of its possessions in Europe. Most of the victors, too, disagreed with the portions of the treaty. These events will leave European states angry at each other and eager for revenge. So in 1914, the major European states come to believe that their allies were important, and they were willing to use war to preserve their power and the power of their allies. What a good friend they are. National desires were not the only source of internal strife at the beginning of the 20th century. Socialist labor movements had grown more powerful, and socialists were increasingly inclined to use strikes or even violent ones to achieve their goals. Some conservative leaders, alarmed at the increase of labor strife and class division, feared that European nations were on the verge of another revolution. Gosh. European leaders may have seen entry into the war in 1914 as a way to increase patriotism and to divert attention away from the discontent at home. So let's go fight and, bring about new fervor for your country, new pride in your country, and forget the problems at home. Let's just forget about it. So this area in 1912 was the extension of this pink line of the Ottoman Empire. All of this was the Ottoman Empire. Greece was by itself. And then territory lost by the Ottoman Empire is what's highlighted or lined. So, lovely. All right. It all started with some assassination. Yes, it did. So, nationalism, imperialism, militarism, and alliances, NEMA, or M.A.I.N, with the desire to stifle internal dissent, might have all played a key role in starting World War I, but it was the decisions of European leaders made in response to a crisis in the Balkans that led directly to the conflict. By 1914, as we've talked about before, Serbia, supported by Russia, was determined to create a large and independent Slavic state in the Balkans. Austria-Hungary, which had its own Slavic minorities to contend with, was equally determined to prevent that from happening. June 28, 1914, Archduke Francis Ferdinand, heir to the Habsburg throne of Austria-Hungary, and his wife, Sophia, visited the city of Sarajevo in Bosnia. There, a group of conspirators waited in the streets, and in that group was a man named Gavrilo Princip, a 19-year-old Bosnian Serb. Princip was a member of the Black Hand, a Serbian terrorist organization that wanted Bosnia to be free of Austria-Hungary and become part of the Serbian kingdom. They're Slavic peoples. They want to join. Earlier in the day, there had been an assassination attempt that one of the conspirators failed to succeed with. However, Princip would be the one who succeeded in fatally shooting the Archduke and his wife later that day. Wow. Killed the heir, man, and his wife. Why the wife, though? Why? The Austro-Hungarian government did not know if the Serbian government was directly involved in the Archduke's assassination, but it did not care. It saw opportunity to, quote, render Serbia innocuous once and for all by a display of force, as the Austrian foreign minister had once put it. Austrian leaders wanted to attack Serbia, but feared the largest military in the world, 1.3 million soldiers, Russia would intervene on Serbia's behalf. So they asked for and received the backing of their German allies. Emperor William II of Germany gave Austria-Hungary, quote, a blank check promising Germany's full support if war broke out between Austria-Hungary and Russia. And Austria-Hungary made demands about Serbia, that Serbia needed to adhere to these lists of demands in an ultimatum. And Serbia said, we'll agree to some, not all of your ultimatum. And that's the thing of an ultimatum. You agree to all of it or else. And they chose else. So July 28th, 1 month later, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. So that's the Archduke right before he died. Here's a picture representation of shooting the Archduke. I think 3 shots were fired, 2 for him, 1 for her. There you go, newspaper the next day. That's Gavrilo Princip, and that's the Black Hand insignia. All right, mobilize. So Russia was determined to support Serbia's cause, and on July 28th, Tsar Nicholas ordered partial mobilization against Austria-Hungary. Mobilization is the process of assembling troops and supplies for war, and in 1914, mobilization, just that process, is considered an act of war. Jeez Louise, can you imagine nowadays? So leaders of the Russian army informed the Tsar that they could not partially mobilize. Mobilization plans were based on a war against both Germany and Austria-Hungary, and mobilizing only against one of them, Austria-Hungary, they claimed would create chaos in the army. Because again, these rigid plans, they made these plans because they knew Austria-Hungary and Germany would be together, and only Austria-Hungary is the one that declared war. So they're like, well, we can't just do halfway. We got to do all the way. So based on this claim, the Tsar ordered full mobilization of the Russian army on July 29th, knowing that Germany would consider that an act of war. Indeed, Germany reacted quickly as the German government warned Russia that it must halt their mobilization within 12 hours. Tsar Nicholas and his Russian foreign leaders ignored the warning, and Germany will declare war on Russia 2 days later, August 1st. Like the Russians, the Germans had a military plan drawn up from General Alfred von Schlieffen called, you guessed it, the Schlieffen Plan. It called for a two-front war with France and Russia because the two had formed a military alliance in 1894, and they knew if you attack one, the other one's going to come following suit. So, here's some mobilization. Germany declares war. That's Alfred von Schlieffen. All right, alliance is triggered. So according to the Schlieffen Plan, Germany would have to conduct a small holding action against Russia, while most of the German army would carry out a rapid invasion of France. This meant invading France by moving quickly along the level coastal area of Belgium. And after France was defeated, the German invaders would move out east towards Russia. However, under the Schlieffen Plan, Germany could not mobilize troops solely against Russia, so it had to declare war on France August 3rd. France is like, bro, I'm not even doing anything. Let's see. On August 4th, Great Britain will declare war on Germany. I already said that though. I'll say it again. At the same time, it issued an ultimatum to Belgium demanding German troops to be allowed to pass through Belgian territory, but Belgium was a neutral nation, and Belgium had the promises of Great Britain to remain neutral. And if you thought about moving troops through a neutral nation, Great Britain promised that they would protect Belgian neutrality. So August 4th, Great Britain declared war on Germany officially violating Belgian neutrality. And in fact, Great Britain, which was allied with France and Russia, was concerned about maintaining its own world power. As one British diplomat said, if Germany and Austria-Hungary won the war, quote, what would the position of a friendless England? What would be the position of a friendless England? So now, by August 4th, after all the declarations, all the great powers of Europe were at war, and the alliances came to be true. This is the Schlieffen Plan. This is Germany on the right. Swoop in through Belgium, take over France, take over Paris, and then move out towards Russia. Here's Belgium being blocked, and this is Germany trying to walk in. Great Britain declares war on Germany. And the crime of the ages, we'll see, if we're going to do a DBQ, you'll see this again. This is the piece of Europe that's been killed, and you got Germany pointing at Russia, Russia pointing at Austria, Austria pointing at Serbia, Italy holding its hands, France blaming Germany, Belgium blaming Germany, and England blaming Germany. So Germany gets the blame. And that's where we're going to stop. So yeah, a little quicker, shorter, get out the facts and stuff like that. So there you have it. That's the beginning of World War I. Well, that's how the war starts, is all these alliances triggered, blah, blah, bliggity, blah. And yeah, you upset one, you upset them all. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Your homework is page 329, 2 through 4. Again, page 329, questions 2, 3, and 4. All right. If you guys enjoyed that, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.